Hello and welcome to FI for Kids, a podcast about guiding your kids on the path to financial independence and extraordinary lives. I'm your host, Dominic DeLaquil. Our guest today is Matt Morizio. Matt is an entrepreneur and the founder of Reconstructing Wealth, an investing and financial planning firm with a mission to help people clarify their relationship with money and use it as a tool to create abundant and fulfilling lives. He's also a father of 7 and a former minor league baseball player. Welcome, Matt, and thanks for coming on the show.
Gosh, thanks for having me. That's a pretty good intro. I might steal it for myself. That's great.
Thanks, man. So why don't we just start by talking about what you learned about money as a kid growing up?
Yeah, my childhood was one of learning how to squeeze a quarter out of a nickel is the best way I can describe it. That's really what it came down to. Like, I was taught at an early age, save, pinch your pennies, hoard money essentially without saying those words, like have fear. It was all fear-based instruction. And it wasn't even instruction. It was just like habits that I was caught. Because, as a parent, as a child, as a parent, to your children, more is caught than taught. Yeah. So I was just catching whatever my mom's relationship was with money, which was whatever her parents' relationship was, which was Great Depression era parents' relationships. And that's kind of where it stems from. And nobody in that family ever really took the time to talk through money as a tool or what it actually is and how to use it effectively to serve a calling. So I carried that mindset as a kid that I learned all the way through, even as a minor leaguer when I was making sub 5 figures and I was making $7 or $8 a year as a minor league baseball player. Yeah. Like, I had to still continue to learn to squeeze quarters out of nickels and sleep on people's couches and all the things. It was not until I was in this world of finance, learning the language of money, that my relationship really started to change with it. But everything I knew to be money was worry, hoard it, be fearful of it. There's not enough of it. You got to be grateful for what you've got. It's really hard to earn, and good luck trying to ever break out of that cycle. That was kind of my mindset.
Yeah, and I think that's when you grow up in that and it just becomes so ingrained that it's, first of all, I think it's hard to even see that you've got that ingrained, right? And that you're making assumptions that you don't even necessarily realize you're making about money and how much is out there or how not, or if you can earn it or can't, all that sort of stuff. And then it's hard to sort of change those habits. So I know we're going to talk quite a bit about that.
Yeah.
So, but you've got 7 kids, and what's the age range?
The ages start at 2 of the youngest up to 13 of the oldest.
Okay, yeah. So you got a good range in there, right? So some that are definitely old enough to be teaching some things about money. So then what approach are you taking with them to sort of make sure they don't develop that same scarcity mindset that you grew up with?
Yeah, I've kind of taken it on my shoulders to say, hey, I am going to be the one in my family's lineage to break those generational chains, because I've learned that you have to decide at some point. Somebody in that family tree needs to say, hey, we don't need to do this. We don't need to behave like this. We don't need to think about money like this. And it's not just money. This could be good. This could be anything, relationships, behaving toward maybe alcoholism, anything. Like, you could just take the reins on something to say, hey, all families need one to break the chains. I'm going to be the one. So I have taken it upon myself to basically start to teach my kids all the things I wish I knew, all the things I'm learning that are serving me today, that I know you don't need to wait till your mid-30s to actually learn and implement. You can learn at a young age. And we homeschool our kids. So all 7 are not technically of school age. 5 of them are, but they're always around and they're all learning from each other anyway. But we homeschool our kids, and I'll do what's called a Money Monday. I host a Money Monday lesson. And really what that is me speaking and teaching in plain English, teaching finance lessons that I wish I knew. And it ranges from like how mortgages and debt works in general, and how to think about debt versus investing, how investments work, how taxes work, all the things that like we're expected to know eventually as adults, because at some point we earn money and you should just know, because nobody's going to teach you it. You just have to somehow learn it. I said, I'll just teach my kids this and help them develop a really healthy relationship around it, because I talk constantly about money being the tool to serve their calling, to get them places where they're trying to go, money being an exchange of value, so that they're chasing the value, they're chasing the calling, they're not chasing the dollar, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
that's
break
cool.
it down in like what I think is easy to understand language, but also use relatable things like chocolate chips and stuff to explain investments growing and debt repayments. And then when they realize, shoot, I have way less chocolate chips after the end of this debt thing, maybe I don't want to do it. Like they understand, oh, okay, I see how this works now.
Yeah, that's cool. I was thinking about this just the other day because I think there are times where you're trying to teach kids stuff about money and, like everything with kids, right? A lot of times you're trying to talk to them about stuff and you're getting the eye roll and they're like, ah. But I also think it's so important to just keep having those conversations because a lot of those things that you talk about all the time at home, they sink in. Even if they seem like they're not, or they seem like they're bored, or they want to have, whatever attitude they want to have at different ages, right? It still sinks in. And then it becomes, when they do get out on their own, that becomes kind of their base, kind of like with your scarcity mindset, right? Like there's a baseline you had that wasn't good that you had to work yourself out of, right? I had to do similar things. I think a lot of people do. So if you can establish a different foundation, it just sets them up so much better. And trying to teach those things later, if we didn't learn them as kids, you can still do that, but I think it's harder than if you just have that foundation and you understand, I've got to think about my money, I've got to pay attention to my money, I can make money work for me, because back to your point, it's a tool to get me these other things or to set me up for these other opportunities or things in life that really are what I value and what I'm after.
Yeah. And what I will say to people, there may be somebody listening that says, man, well, it's easy for you to teach about money because you're in finance and you're in the language, you understand the language of money because that's your job, is to help people with it. Well, for one, I would say you can follow me on Instagram. It's just my name, Matt Morizio. You can steal anything I teach my kids and just go do it yourself.
Yeah.
So there's that. I mean, that's out there for you. If you want to if you don't know where to start or what to say to your kids, you could just rip a lesson and go do it yourself. There's nobody says you can't do that. The second thing I will say is that I have the unique vantage point of having had thousands of conversations with people about their money at this point, and we all have some level of unhealth, I will say.
Sure.
But the people who have the best relationships and often have the most successful financial lives are usually the ones who have talked about it throughout their life. Not always, almost never in childhood. It's usually at some point along the way they took the control and said, I want to learn how other people do this. Kind of like, I want to learn how other people eat. I want to learn how other people exercise.
Yeah,
I
that's
want to
right.
learn how other people use their money. And then they start to talk about it and they learn. So maybe if you're not even saying the right things, but you're just bringing up money in your house and understanding it's not about the money, it's about how you use it, like that might just be enough to set your kids on a new trajectory. So don't overthink it. And if you don't know where to start, like use ChatGPT. Say, hey, I'm going to teach my kids a lesson on debt. Give me 5 great ideas I can use. And that'll be a great place to start. Just do it though, because in my experience and having thousands of conversations, just talking about it has been the single identifier for me that I've been able to parse out that says the people who figured this out the best seem to have just talked about it in their lifetime as opposed to others who never have.
No, I think that's so important, right? Because we talk about, so everybody, when you become adults, most people are thinking about, well, okay, I'm trying to eat more healthy. I'm getting a little older. Maybe I'm gaining a little weight, or I know there's this history of this, that, or the other thing in my family's, this disease history in my family. And I now want to start thinking about that. And so people will think about what they're eating and they'll talk with other people about it. Same with exercise. But people don't want to talk about money, right? Because we've just grown up in this culture of, no, that's something you don't talk about. And that's such a big mistake, right? It's like, because I agree with you 100%. The more we talk about it and the more we can talk about it with sort of all kinds of people, the more it just brings things in, right? And gets you, opens up your mind to, that little thing over there that I wouldn't have noticed, a month ago. Now, that caught my attention and I can learn something else. And you keep adding pieces on to your understanding. And, you also bring up a great point. Like you don't to teach your kids stuff, you don't have to have all the answers, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Because if we just take exercise as an example, like I exercise, I'm consistent about it, I'm good with it, I feel good, but am I perfect? No. Could I do more? Could I optimize more? Yeah, but that's not the most important thing to me, but I still get huge benefits from just being consistent over time. Because look, man, I'm not, 22-year-old Arnold. Right? Like Arnold, you don't have, if you're working out and you're trying to be healthy, your goal really isn't to be Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. Right? And it's the same thing with money. Your goal is not necessarily to be the richest person ever, to optimize everything. It's just do enough to put yourself in a better position so you've got more options and more flexibility and a more enjoyable life.
Really good. Yeah. Couldn't say any better. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk then, because we're kind of heading this direction anyway, about your idea of emotionally detaching from money so that you can reduce some of that fear and anxiety and change your focus more to clarity and abundance. So talk about that.
Sure. I kind of want to redefine. I'm going to be on a crusade to redefine financial freedom.
Okay, cool.
As opposed to financial freedom being hitting some inflection point where your investments fund your lifestyle. I'm going to say financial freedom is when you've learned to emotionally detach from your money as much as humanly possible. You're still human. You will get emotional at hard financial times. Don't get me wrong. But I've met plenty of people who have enough money to fund their life. They have plenty of money, but it would be hard pressed for me to call them financially free because they live in worry and fear their whole life. And that's not real freedom to me, even if your investments can fund your life. So to me, financial freedom is when you've learned to really emotionally detach money and see it for what it is. And it sounds great to say, yeah, it would be wonderful to move from fear and anxiety to clarity and confidence, of course. But like, there's a gap there, Matt. Like, I live here and I want to be here, but I don't see the clear path. I will tell you that the two paths I've learned and I'm passing on to my children to get from fear to confidence and worry to clarity. I think I flipped that, but to get there, the two paths that I have learned in passing are, one, the shortcut really has been actually giving up control of it, giving it away. I realized that, man, and I won't get too far into the details of the science behind it, but having money have this grip, its grips on me, and having this fear around finances, it really controlled so much of other decisions I'd make in my life. Even when I'm trying to be present with my kids, because my 4-year-old's telling me some crazy story that I don't even understand, but she's super happy, so I'm listening. Like, when I don't get it and I'm not connecting, the tendency used to be my mind would just wander. And it usually wandered to a place of worry, of like thinking about the stuff I needed to get done so that I could do the bills and that's the kind of the train of thought that would start to happen. And then I catch myself and try to come back in the moment. Whereas that happens way less now. I'm not going to lie, it will happen once in a while because I just can't connect to the story. But I'm trying to be, and I will be, and I am more radically present with my kids, because that thing that used to have its grips on me that I worried about so much, I have made the conscious decision to set aside an account. It's a separate bank account. And I have every month or every time I'm paid, I put money into that account. And in that act of taking the thing that once controlled me and then willingly and freely deciding I'm going to give some of this thing away, subconsciously I'm rewiring my psyche to no longer allow that thing to control me anymore. Because subconsciously, I've talked to some PhDs in neuroscience about this too, and in psychology, and they said, like, you used to have worry and fear around money, but because you voluntarily told your subconscious, we're going to give this thing away now, that your subconscious rewired to tell yourself, basically, hey, you don't have to worry about this thing anymore. And that allows me to be fully present. So that's the shortcut I would encourage anybody. It doesn't matter the amount necessarily. I would encourage anybody to start to think about, how can I use my money for other people?
Hey, Matt, so a question and a comment. So,
Sure. Okay.
so
Yeah.
the fear and anxiety that you used to have a lot of around money, was that you weren't going to bring enough in, or that you weren't going to be able to keep it, or what, or some combination of that? Just curious what the actual flavor of that stress was.
Yeah. The stress for me was not being able to have enough to cover costs, cover bills, make sure my family's fed. That was the worry. It wasn't necessarily that if it came in that I would go and spend it, because my previous life of squeezing quarters out of nickels like actually can serve me
Yeah.
if kept at a healthy level of
Yeah.
like, I'm not a reckless spender now.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I
Good
think
point.
that like scarcity mindset to a degree can serve you. So long as you're in control of it, it's not in control of you.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And then my comment is, you bring up something that I've done for a long time, which is I just have separate accounts for things. And so and you're talking specifically about an account that, you're putting money in that you're going to give away to other people to help other people, or charity, or however you're going to do that, right? But it's money that you're donating somehow. But you can also do that with, we want to take trips and have vacations, and we're going to set a certain amount aside each month for vacations. And I just think, because then it helps give you, it's easy to go set up like free checking accounts for that stuff, and you just allocate that money out. And even if it's not a lot, at least okay, I'm building this up. And again, you're taking some control over it. And then, right, you're talking about the neuroplasticity. I mean, it is a biological thing that, right, there are neurological pathways in your brain, and the more that you do certain things, then those things become, highways or super highways.
Yeah.
And you can shift that, right? So if you're spending
Well
all your time being anxious about money, you've developed that into a well-traveled, like big road. But you can switch that. And so it's cool what you're saying about, hey, giving this money away starts to sort of switch that and create a new pathway and a whole new sort of mindset about what money is and how it works and my control over it. So I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, I love that. Didn't even want to know that we get into the brain science, but that's exactly it. That's for sure what's happening. And that was the first part. The second part, I did tell you there was two ways. The second part is more of the long game. Like that was the shortcut to it. But the long game has just been learning how the game of money works. The more I've learned, the more my fear and my worry has dissipated. And I learned that my fear was basically fear of the unknown. It wasn't anything else. I just didn't know it. I didn't understand it. Kind of like you're an incoming freshman in your high school year. That 8th grade summer, the week before you're about to be going to your freshman high school for the first time ever, is full of anxiety and apprehension because it's a new building and you might get lost, and there's upperclassmen and new teachers and new students from around the city or wherever you're from. There's a lot that you just don't know that you're worried and anxious about. The reality is, though, and I won't let my kids be this, but most people spend their entire financial lives as incoming freshmen. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah,
and as soon as I willingly decided I'm going to start to learn about some of the money stuff, the fear and anxiety and worry around it started to slowly fade away, because I was like, oh, I understand debt instruments a little bit better now. Like I get how this works, and I understand how to navigate or figure out, should I invest or should I pay off the debt, because there are these rates that I can look at and kind of make educated decisions on. And here's the truth. Nobody has it figured out, because almost all of the decisions that we're making are based off of what we anticipate in the future. And the future is a complete unknown. So you could make a right call and the future doesn't go as planned and it's the wrong call. Like that's the freedom of it. It's like the emotions have sort of started to level off, because I realized the stuff I thought you had to be perfect on, you actually don't. You just continue to work.
No, that's, you bring up something that's a cool idea. So Annie Duke maybe she still is a professional poker player, but she also has a degree in psychology. And so she has just a couple of books. One of her book is Thinking in Bets. And one of the points is, if you're a professional poker player, it's not emotional. You're detached from that, right? Kind of like what you're saying with money. And you have to understand various sort of nuts and bolts about the game and about statistics and all those kind of things. Right. And then you're making decisions based on what you're seeing non-emotional, detached decisions. And sometimes, you make what's the best statistical call, and it doesn't go your way because chance is a part of the game, right? And it's part of life. I mean, you played baseball, right? The same thing. There are certain things you should do in a position, like, okay, I need to be positioned here, or if this happens and based on who's on the field, then I've got to throw here or there, and you make that right call. And sometimes it still doesn't work out because whatever other random things you can't control happen. But you can't let yourself get derailed by that, because sometimes you make the wrong call and it works out great, but then you don't want to get sucked into that either, right? So it's just, I need to understand the basics, and I'm just going to apply those and just keep sort of moving forward and be consistent over time and continue to improve my understanding as I go. So yeah, I think that's really great what you said about, right, just getting started to understand things, and it helps you feel more comfortable, right? And I think your freshman high school analogy is great, because I think everybody can understand that. Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah, right. Well said. I'm gonna read that book too. That sounds right up my alley.
Yeah. She's got a cool perspective on stuff. So yeah, Annie Duke, Thinking in Bets. Yeah. Today's episode is sponsored by Slingshot, a Singleton Foundation program. Slingshot is a free web app that makes it easy for anyone to create and launch a business idea. It guides you through the process of creating and clarifying your concept, then leads you into areas necessary for any business, such as identifying your target customer, creating your financial plan, doing your marketing plan, and more. It puts you in a better position to seek funding if you are wanting to start your own business, but you can also use it if you're working for someone else and you want to solve a problem within that current organization. Visit slingshot.io, that's SLYNGSHOT.io, to learn more. And thanks to Slingshot and the Singleton Foundation for sponsoring this episode. So let's talk then about, so when you start to change your relationship with money, you detach a little bit and you start getting this kind of shifting your mental pathways and your mindset more to clarity and abundance. Just talk about, for you yourself, what was the impact on your life when you really started making that shift in a meaningful way?
Yeah, for me, that shift happened. It began to happen, I should say, maybe 8 years ago or so. When I really got into this world nearly a decade ago, how I learned the language of money and language of finance. As that has happened, I have noticed that I am less worrisome and I am more emotionally present with my wife, with my children. And that was always the goal. It was like, I don't want to live this, I'm physically here, mentally there. And then when I'm at work, I'm physically there, but mentally at home. I wanted to live in congruence. I wanted to bloom where I was planted. You know what I mean? Like, be where my feet are. And believe it or not, freeing up or understanding how money works has actually freed me up to be more present. And I'm thankful for my wife, who has always been my strongest supporter. And she's such a big believer in me and who I am. But she also is not afraid to tell me like it is. Like, what happened to kind of kickstart the necessity for change was that I would say 11 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, we had 4 children at the time, all young kids, twins, 3 and under. It was a hard season. And she was carrying the weight of that and the brunt of that. And I was working a lot. I was not in financial advising. I was in finance staffing at the time. And in that world, you sort of started the day at 7:30 and you ended at 6:30. And if you started at 7:30, you were late. If you ended at 6:30, you were early. It was expected to just work extra.
Yeah.
Plus, I wanted to still take care of my health. So the only time to work out was earlier. And sometimes I had to hit networking events in the evening. There were very many days I just didn't see my children.
Yeah.
Even though I woke up and went to bed in the same house that they were in.
Yeah.
I just didn't see them.
Sure.
And finally, it was one evening, she came to me and said, I didn't sign up to be a single mom. So we have to figure this out. And I was hit between the eyes, because I thought I was doing what needed to be done as a provider. I thought I was doing the right things. I was up early, staying late. I was burning the candle at both ends in the name of providing. But really, I was letting fear drive that bus because I was worried that I would never be able to provide for all. My life was exploding, like so many children, apartment to house, one car to two, one child to four. Like this is in a matter of a few years. I was doing all I could to just keep my head above water. I felt like, what do you mean? I'm supposed to do this as a dad, right? But what I recognized, and thankfully she pointed that out in a very blunt way, was that I was missing the important moments at home.
Yeah.
Kind of sacrificing my family on that altar of ambition, if you will, or that altar of fear, really. And I recognized, holy smokes, I've got to figure this out. And it's not about working harder. It couldn't be.
Yeah.
Like there were no more hours for me to put, I mean, I was there, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I
That was
need
part
to
of the problem, right? Is you were trading all your time for money and then
Yeah.
weren't able to enjoy any of the fruits of that, and including just the most basic and important thing, spending time with your family, right? And with small
Right.
kids. Yeah.
Missing
Sure.
those moments.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
recognized, shoot, I've got to learn how money works. And as I've learned money and the exchange of value that it represents, like I recognize, like if the hardest workers were the wealthiest people, there would be dozens, if not hundreds, of wealthy laborers and roofers and construction guys because they work hard, you know?
Yeah.
That's just not the way the world of money works. And that's like, that was the intro to, as I was in that season of life, recognizing I can't continue this. So now I got to understand how it works. That eventually led me to financial advising. But really, that was the part that was the catalyst to say, if I want to be home and want to witness my children's childhood, I cannot continue on this path because this is what it looks like. And that actually, to answer your question, is what has happened in my life as a result of the change of my relationship with money.
So now you got more money now, more time. You're able to spend more time with your family. I mean, one of the main things you mentioned, because this is so important, I think, for all of us, and a constant thing. Another one of those things that just really try and take consistent action on, I think, throughout life, which is just to be present in whatever you're doing, to be present, right? Because that's where life happens. I mean, yes, you have to plan for the future and
Right.
you learn lessons from the past, but really you're alive in this moment. And if you're distracted, you're missing out on something, right? So be present now. It's so important. And so your relationships are better. What about other things like your health and just sort of just your other, I don't know, just your mindset in general? Like did all those things sort of improve too when you were able to kind of get a little bit more clarity around money?
Yeah, well, part of understanding how money worked was about the nuts and bolts of personal finance. That was like the entry.
Sure. Yeah.
Understanding debt and investments and accounts and the different types of accounts and how to use them effectively. Kind of like those are the chess pieces on the chessboard. My knowledge expanded to really understand that there is more to it than just the blocking and tackling of personal finances. So really, and this is a great question. Nobody's ever asked me this. Beyond the actual understanding of personal finances, I've leveled up everything. I look at my life in 4 real buckets, really, with like 7 children and a wife and wanting to be all that I can be for all of them. I kind of have limited amount of extra time. So I don't have a lot of fluff. I don't have hobbies. You know, I do the things that matter and I don't do the things that don't. But to figure out what matters, I've really compartmentalized my life in faith, family, fitness, and finance, the 4 F's. I didn't make that up. I've heard that and I just adopted it for my own life. But in those 4 areas, I will tell you that it's like a rising tide. As one area starts to lift, the other, not in lockstep, but the other starts to grow too. So I can tell you my fitness is probably as good as it's ever been. My faith is stronger than it's ever been. The relationships in my life, the depth of them and the quality of them has never been better. So as my financial acumen and the understanding of that has risen, I've also learned, wait, if I'm going to sort of level up and become that next version of me, all that other stuff also has to level up.
Yeah.
I can't expect that like, hey, I'll just make a boatload of money and hopefully everything else follows.
So what's cool about that? So what I hear there, sometimes in that scarcity mindset, you can also pick up on when you're growing up, hey, people who have too much money, there's something wrong with them, or they're not good people, or it's going to make you greedy, or going to make you whatever. And right, that's just not true. Like, money is not going to make you something that you already aren't, right? So it's a tool. It's just like a tool in your garage, and you can be stupid and destructive with it, or you can build cool stuff with it, right? And so part of what you've done
is an amplifier. It just sort of amplifies who you already are.
Absolutely, it's an amplifier, right? So if you're a good person and want to do good stuff, it lets you do more of that. Yeah, absolutely true. Yes. So right, so you've, as you learned about money, it became more of that for you, but it also ties in with this whole concept that's so important to financial freedom, which is knowing what it is that you value. And money is a tool to help kind of serve that, right? And so that's exactly what you're saying. So you've focused on the things that are the most relevant for you in your life right now. You've gotten your money to a point where, like, hey, it's also not this, because you're not anxious about it all the time. It's not this constant anchor dragging you down and dragging all of your rest of your mental energy down into the depths of like, this fear and worry. So then that allows you the space mentally and psychologically to, focus on these other things that really matter to you. And then it just lifts your whole life up. So that's really cool.
Well said. You distilled that beautifully. That's exactly it.
So then let's talk about, because I know this is a focus for you. So at Reconstructing Wealth, your business, this is what you're trying to help people do. So talk to us about that.
Yep. At the end of the day, I am a financial independent investing firm, financial planning firm. So I am like the other 315,000 other financial advisors out there, in that, yes, you come to me because you say, I need some help investing on my behalf. I need some help with this financial plan. I need some guidance and some coaching. I named my firm Reconstructing Wealth because I really recognize that the lasting change and the big impact, the generational ripple effect that I want to create in people's lives will happen when they learn how the game of money works and they're willing to pass that on to the next generation. So when they reconstruct their relationship with money, that's why I've named the firm Reconstructing Wealth. And I named it because I'm case study number one. As I've understood the game of money, we talked about it, I'm starting to pass that on to my kids.
Yeah.
And it's unquantifiable, the ripple effect that will have. Once one generation passes it to the next generation who has multiple more kids who hopefully stand on the shoulders of giants, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm after. And I will equate it to diet and fitness. Like, people don't go to Jenny Craig because they say, I think that I emotionally eat and I need to work on my relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
People go to Jenny Craig because they're like, I got a wedding in 2 months and I need to lose 20 pounds and 3 inches on my waistline. Like, we need some help. So people come to me with something happening in their financial life where they're like, look, I need some assistance. But the winners of Jenny Craig and the other like programs are the ones who learn that food is fuel, that fitness is a way of life. It's not just a temporary season. Like, they learn that stuff about themselves and they rewire their relationship with it subconsciously. It just happens. So for me, the winners in my relationship and in my life are the ones who take the charge and understand there's more to it than just like, hey, invest my money, Matt, and come up with a plan for me so I don't outlive it. I mean, like, that's baseline, but like, let's go deeper and let's really get somewhere. And that's what ends up happening. Some, as you can imagine, like Jenny Craig, some are more proactive and some take to that more. Some are less active and some results are better than others. It's really similar to like the whole diet program, but that's why I named the firm that. I'm not hiding behind it. It's literally in the name.
Yeah. No, that's cool, because I know you've said too, right? So, and I think this is really cool that you're trying to help people create a life they don't feel that they have to escape from.
Yeah, that's well said.
Well, you said that. I took that from you. So,
oh, geez, no wonder I liked it. I didn't even realize. Yes, and I was somebody who played pro sports. Like, I was living my literal dream. I was getting a paycheck with the Kansas City Royals emblem on it. Like, that was so cool for me. That was my 6-year-old boy's dream.
Yeah.
And we played every day. The idea of a weekend was just another game. I didn't have this mindset of, man, Monday through Friday is the grind, but Saturday, like, I can't wait for Friday night. And then Sunday evening, I can't believe it's Monday already. Like, I was doing what I loved, and when I wasn't doing it, I was doing other things. And then I was thrust, because they released me, which is the kind way of saying fired. I got released, and I was thrust into the real world. I'll never forget. It was my first day. I don't think I've ever told this story. It was my first day in my big boy job. I had a suit on. I was going into my finance staffing business career. And I got off the train at South Station in Boston. I was heading into South Station. And I had this out of body experience of like, oh my gosh, I don't fit in. I don't belong here. I do not want to be this, because what I saw was like a bunch of cattle. It was just everybody off the train with their head down, their AirPods in, or whatever they were doing. It was just like this mindless corralling into the escalator up to go on with their, I don't know how many dozens of years they've been in their careers. Like these were the people living for the weekend, is how I saw it. I don't know if they all were. I don't know them personally. But it was this like overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, this is everybody's every day, and I don't want to do this. Because I was coming from the total opposite. Now I'm really passionate about people building lives that they don't feel like they need to escape from. I think it's very important, and I have it all over my website. I think it's important to understand that what's your work optional number? There's a quiz. There's a free quiz on my site. You can't miss it. There's buttons everywhere. Work optional quiz, work optional quiz. Take it, because I think it's important to understand where you're trying to get to. Like, what's your number where your investments fund your life? But that shouldn't be the destination of like, I just need to grind it out Monday through Friday for the next however many decades to finally get to there, and then I can enjoy my life. Like, what a tremendous waste if you spend 30 years waiting to live.
Yeah. Well, I think that's been the classic mistake for so many people, right? They're doing what they can on the weekends, jamming it in, grinding through the week. And sometimes it's like, my job isn't bad, or I like some of my coworkers. Sometimes people just like, they really sort of dread that weekday job, or they tell themselves, well, no, it's good. But really, on some level, they're like, I don't like doing this, right? And so just being able to working towards something and having more options, but also figuring out, okay, what are my options in the meantime to create a more meaningful life, so that I'm not feeling like, I'm just in this Monday through Friday grind, and I'm trying to escape from that, and I'm only living for the weekends. Because, I think that's a great point, right? Like, what a waste of all of these prime years of your life, when a lot of people are raising families, or if they don't have families, all the things that they could be doing, that are meaningful to them. And that just, so much of that gets sacrificed for the sake of just solely trading your time for money and not really getting enough out of it in return. And there are better options, right? And yes, it takes some work and it takes effort, and you've got to learn some things, and you've got to be uncomfortable. But then we're back to, that's no different from, and I actually make this analogy a lot between finances and fitness and diet, because to me they're so similar. You've got to learn some stuff, and you got to start to put it in place, and you've got to be consistent over time. But if you do those things, you're going to make progress, and your life is going to be better. Period.
Yeah. Full stop. Agreed. Couldn't agree more. And I will say that maybe what I'm talking about is sounds like pie in the sky thinking. And I just want to be very clear that I was living my 6-year-old boy dream. I was playing a sport for a living. It wasn't a huge living. It was sub 5-figure living, but it was a living. They paid my health insurance, right? There were days, and there were parts of days that I just didn't feel like playing. I didn't feel like lifting. I didn't feel like running. I didn't feel like studying hitters. I didn't feel like studying. There was parts of the day I just didn't feel like doing. And I'm here to say, if I can play my childhood sport dream for a living and still not like every part of it, there's literally no job out there where you're going to say, if you love what you do, you never feel like you work a day in your life. I just don't believe that, because I lived my dream, and some of it felt like work.
Yeah.
It's just the reality. So, so don't pretend or mislead yourself by saying, shoot, I don't think I'm doing what I'm called to do because I really can't stand some of this sometimes. Like, no, that's just normal and healthy. Like, there will be parts, I should say, of every job, every career in your whole life that you won't want to do, and you won't like certain seasons, certain parts of it. And that's still okay. It doesn't mean you're in the wrong place.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I think that's just that's a a very unique thing for each individual person to resolve, right? And so because you're asking yourself, well, is the balance right or is it not? And right, so you were going into that financial staffing job, and you knew kind of from the get-go, like, this doesn't feel right. Now you're doing it and you needed to do something, so you did it for a while, but in the end, it really wasn't right, and you found a better path. And sometimes you have to go through that. Sometimes, right, I'm sure there are days now where it's the same as with baseball. It's like, you like what you're doing now, but there are days that you're like, I don't want to deal with this client, or I don't feel like dealing. I don't want to do this podcast today, or whatever it is, right? I don't, you know what I mean? Whatever different things you have going on, there are some times when you're like, my energy's low today or whatever, but that doesn't mean that it's not the right fit for you.
Correct. Yeah. This feels like a calling more than a career at this point. It feels like this is quite literally where I'm supposed to be. I've been led to be here is kind of how I feel. And great example today, like one of the companies we own had a bad earnings call yesterday, and the stock is down like 40% so far on the day or so. It's having a terrible day. Now that stinks, because I know there are a lot of people who've entrusted me with their life savings who are experiencing that alongside me. And that doesn't feel good. Like, I don't want that for people.
Sure.
If I could do without this for the rest of my life, wonderful. I would take that off my plate. But the reality is, like, this is part of the calling. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, and that's okay. We're going to get through it. It's just uncomfortable, and there's parts of that, everybody's journey, that they're going to experience it. And I'm literally here today telling you, like, today I'm feeling exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and back to the exercise thing, right? There are days where you're like, you don't want to exercise.
Oh my gosh, like 90% of them.
But you do it anyway, right? Because you're like, because I know what the results are going to get me. So and I just think that's a good point you bring up, right? That being a good fit doesn't mean it's perfect all the time, 100% of the time, because that's just not how things work at all.
Right. I just wanted to make sure I was realistic with that.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. So before we wrap up, I did want to take just a couple minutes and just talk about your life in professional baseball, just in terms of what lessons you took from that, what good things you took from it, and what were some kind of hard things you learned from doing that then sort of served you sort of going forward.
Man, there was so much that I can attribute to who I am. I can attribute to those 5 seasons of professional ball, to the sport in general, but really in that growing season of my life, those 5 years of professional sport. So it might be hard for me to really, unless we have another hour, to really distill it down to a couple. But as I think about it, there are a number of lessons, a couple that stand out. The first one is, for me, I learned that your external environment influences your internal environment. And what I mean by that is and I didn't know it at the time, but I was placed in this insulated, curated bubble of high performers, high achievers, growth-minded individuals. We all had this absurd goal of making it to the big leagues. And the statistical odds were so heavily against us, it didn't even make sense to try it 20 years prior if we played the odds. But each one of us also believed we were going to be the one to beat those statistical odds,
Yeah, sure.
That's classic growth-minded definition, entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
And it just fueled us. Like, we were all chasing that, and we all knew it, and we supported each other, but that's how the external environment sort of influences your internal environment. Flip it, if it was a bunch of people who didn't believe it and were haters and naysayers and negative people instead of optimists, they were pessimistic, then I bet that I probably would have started to think a little and doubt myself a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what I've learned, pulling that into the real world, pulling that lesson, is that we're all not so blessed to be able to have a curated bubble of growth-minded people that we just get to be plopped in. We have to go seek that circle out. We've got to create that and cultivate that community of people, and sometimes physical environments too. Like, you can be in a place that you just feel inspired. Some people, it's the ocean, the mountains, whatever it is. And that external environment really does change your internal environment. If you're going to really grow into who you're created to be, you're going to need to be surrounded by other people that are on equally crazy missions that support you in that growth. So I think that's a really important one.
That's a super important lesson. And that's a super important lesson for kids, right? So for parents,
Yes.
helping their kids move towards financial independence or anything in life, knowing who your kids are hanging out with, because the people that you surround yourself with, it's going to be one of three things, right? They're either going to drag you down. So you were saying, like, if you were around all these people who are negative naysayers, even if they're all good people and they're not doing it intentionally, but that's just kind of how they are, you're going to be drawn in that direction. Or you can be sort of in the middle. Or if you're around other people or your kids are around kids where they're all kind of challenging each other and they expect each other to do better, they expect everyone to sort of behave right or to learn more, then man, that pulls you up, kind of like that baseball environment where everyone has a different idea of, hey, I can do more, I can be more, and that's what everybody else is doing, so it draws you up. And so as parents, trying to do what you can to help your kids find those kind of relationships is super important.
Super important. And I will say one other lesson that I learned that I can really relate and pull to parenting and everything else that kind of fuels me in a healthy way. It was that I learned in baseball that you are always replaceable. Like nobody is above another person. You are, and it's actually this story that comes to mind as I'm saying that is we were on this bus trip home in baseball. Used to be, they have a little bit more of a defined schedule now, but you would go on like a 3-day road stand, a 10-day road stand, a 7-day. So you would go to the field, go get your gear from the field, load the bus at the field, and the bus would leave for the road stand or your road trip from the field. 10 days, 7 days, however long it is. When you're done on that road trip, you head back to your home field where you unload all your baseball equipment, and then you hop in your car that's parked at the stadium, and then you drive home to your house or apartment, wherever you're living. So that's just so you can visualize this. We're getting home from a long road trip. It's like 4 or 5 in the morning. And when we're getting off the bus, we're all obviously like groggy-eyed and trying to catch a few hours sleep at our house before we got to be back at the field at 2 o'clock that same day.
Sure.
So we're just in a rush to get our stuff off the bus, get in the cars, and get home. One of our teammates, I remember, he was called into the manager's office. But at that hour, no one's even paying attention or thinking about it. Well, at 4 a.m. when we landed, or when we arrived, pulled into the stadium, his dream ended. He was actually pulled into the manager's office and handed a plane ticket home to the Dominican Republic. And I never saw him again.
Wow.
When I got back to the field at 2 in the afternoon that same day, I had no idea that happened, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
Because everybody just went to their cars to drive home. I get to the field, his locker is still there in the clubhouse, but it's got a new name badge on it. His jersey's hanging, but it's a new name on it. On the lineup sheet, he's not there. There's a new person's name in the lineup where he used to be. And I've seen people release dozens and dozens and dozens of people at that point in my career, but that one hit me because it was like, man, in that 4 a.m. moment, that man's dream ended. Somebody else was right there to replace him. And if you're a fan coming to the game that night, you would never have known that at 4 a.m. that same day, somebody's dream ended. He was replaced by somebody nipping at his heels, all in the same pursuit of the same goal. And the train kept chugging. Like we played that night. The fans got a show. Nobody knew the difference except for us.
Yeah.
And that actually fuels me now because it humbles me because it's like I don't have the privilege of ever coasting because I envision somebody coming to replace me. But it's a healthy fuel because I recognize also I'm not so great that I'm irreplaceable. So I need to continue to learn, continue to grow so that I can serve people into higher capacity and continue to expand my knowledge so that I can be better for the people I work with, right? Like there will never be a point where I've made it and you're so lucky to work with me because I know everything, yeah, right. That's how that has helped me and served me. But it also helps me as a parent to say you guys have to understand your unique gifts, your unique callings, lean into those, understand those. You're young now. You don't get it necessarily. But as you grow, understand how you're created to be. And those gifts, those will be your tickets out of here. Leaning into those gifts that you have, those unique gifts, and then helping other people with them. using them in the service of others is the path to fulfillment. And you will be excellent at that. You will be replaceable because nobody's irreplaceable. But if you're using those gifts and you're serving the other people and you're continuing to expand and grow in those areas, it's going to be really difficult to replace you. So at least make it a really difficult replacement.
Yeah.
Not impossible.
Well, no, but that's good, right? Because it's as you move forward through life, you want to celebrate whatever successes you have, but then not just rest on your laurels and then start to coast, right? And maybe that means you continue to just expand what you're doing. Maybe you reach a point where you're like, I've been doing this for X number of years and I have these other interests and I'm going to sort of shift gears and do something different, but you're still moving forward, right? Keeping your brain active, doing good things for other people, keeping yourself fulfilled and not just expecting to coast and never have to put in any effort. So I think that's a good lesson.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well said.
So where can people find you, Matt, if they want to reach out?
The best place, the easiest place is Instagram. I'm on Instagram, pretty active on it. It's just my name, @Matt Morizio. And if you heard this podcast and you want to learn more without maybe necessarily talking to me, you just want to learn more, you could send me a DM to say you heard the show. And I created a video course that I would be happy to share with your audience. It's free. It just costs an email address, but it's a 3-part series of a lot of what we talked about, like changing your relationship with money. It's got some nuts and bolts personal finance. It's got some science stuff behind it. But it's a video course that this is a great either starting point, transition point, along the journey point. It's a good, three video primer for wherever you're trying to take your financial lives. And it costs nothing. And I'm happy to share that. If you want to just follow me and then send me a DM, I'll share it with you, share you the link. Or you could fill out the contact page at reconstructingwealth.com. I'll see that. Either way, I'm the one sending the DM back, or I will eventually see that contact inquiry too. So I'm accessible. There's no wizard behind any curtains for me.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'll put both those things in the show notes so people can just click on those to awesome. Reach out to you if they want.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. Matt, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's cool stuff, what you're doing. And thanks a lot for coming on and just sharing that with everybody. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's my honor. Thank you, Dominic. You did a really good job of taking a lot of the stuff I spewed out at you and distilling it into some really well-articulated one or two liners. So thanks for that. I might need to hire you as my speech coach.
Thanks, man. It's been fun. Thanks a lot.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the FI for Kids podcast. Please support the show by hitting subscribe and receive new episodes every Thursday. The intro and exit music this episode are courtesy of Douglas Cameron. As always, you can find links to the FI for Kids music in the show notes. Thanks again, and we'll talk next week.
You're like the horizon. I can't reach you, you're so far away. And if I run to the place I want you to stay, you'd be gone. I'd be left wondering why you moved on, and why you never said goodbye. I can't wait any longer. I see the writing on the wall. It's time for us to say, tomorrow we are yesterday. Tomorrow we are yesterday. You're like the sunset. You're glowing bright